Merkel Media.
He put it in park, threw open the driver's door, ran out the side of the car, across the front of it, and jumped right off the side of the bridge in front of me.
The only people that really pulled over were truckers.
He said, "We're going to Haji," and he didn't slow down. He went across the median onto the oncoming traffic, but where they could see him coming, they just got out of the way.
I noticed this plane was really low. It went right in front of us, hit the fence, and it spun around. 30 seconds more, he could have hit us.
And I went around that truck, and a guy stepped out from behind the truck and threw a piece of wood, and it shot through my window just like a spear and stuck in the back of the cab of my truck.
That's probably one of the stranger things I've seen.
Welcome to Hammer Lane Legends. I'm Brian Merkel.
I'm Brian Shipper.
I'm Mike Dre.
We are sitting here with Bill and Luann from Pitt, Ohio. And this show, this time right now, we are going to be remembering Winthrop Wilson, who was one of the Pitt, Ohio drivers, who is the Pitt, Ohio driver who passed away just a few weeks ago. And we just wanted to take a few minutes to remember Wilson's life, remember his time here at Pitt, and the friendships that he had. And so we brought Bill and Luann to come in and ask them to just sit and have a conversation with us about Wilson, because they spent more time with Wilson than any of us. But we didn't want to just let this go by.
Right.
Because it's so important that we remember people. You know?
Because, we were getting the news when we were doing the break room show. And,
yes,
basically that break room show went to shit in a handbasket.
It did. Yeah, it did. And it's rough. It's rough for a truck driver to get that kind of information, that kind of news about a fellow truck driver, because that could be any one of us.
Right. Literally, you got the information from a guy from Cincinnati.
Yeah. And it happened in PA.
Right.
So it was it's one of those crazy things that you look at, and we all know in the back of our head, it's like we all know we have that this is our possibility.
This happens every night.
It does. This is an event, an event that happens to so many drivers. And It's a scary thing. It's one of those things that we look at and we all have to deal with. But at the same time, you push it to the back of your head, because if you don't, you won't be able to function. You won't be able to walk through life and do your job and just do what needs to be done. So, Bill, we're gonna let you start with you wanted to read from the obituary for Wilson, and I appreciate that, because I think it's really important, because that kind of gives some of Wilson's history, some of who he is, and we call him Wilson because his name is Winthrop.
Yeah, but he's the
Wilson.
One that said, "Just call me Wilson."
Call me Wilson. Yeah. So that's where I was going for. Yeah,
right.
He holds the, just call him Wilson. So, Bill, you go right ahead and read from the obituary for Winthrop.
Yeah. Besides Luann and I knowing him, she and I both attended the service. And again, I would like to share something. I'd like to read the obituary. Again, this is about Winthrop Jr. Wilson. Born June 24th in 1966. He passed away on November 9th, 2024. I don't know if you want to hold that up before I read it.
Sure.
It shows a picture of Wilson. Yeah, there you go. Good deal. So I'll quick read this. Winthrop Joseph Wilson, 58, of Bethlehem Township, affectionately known as Junior by friends and loved ones, or Wilson to his colleagues, passed away on Saturday, November 9th, 2024. He was born on June 24th, 1966, in Christiana, Manchester, Jamaica. He is the son of the late Noel and Millicent Davy Wilson. In the 1980s, he moved to New York and graduated from Uniondale High School. Although living in the United States, Winthrop was proud of his Jamaican culture and heritage. He was a truck driver for over 20 years, employed by New Penn Motors Express, and most recently, Pitt, Ohio. He and his wife and son are a part of the Faith Community Assembly of God Church family and are devoted believers in Christ. He is a kind, loving, dedicated husband and father who always put family first. He was very handy, always building or designing things. Outside was his favorite place, whether gardening or relaxing near his handmade fish pond. Winthrop will be remembered for his jovial personality, helpful nature, and jokes that made everyone laugh. Winthrop is survived by his loving wife of 9 years, Keisha Shakespeare Wilson, children Zachary, Megan, Michelle, and Brianna Wilson, grandchildren Ulana, Milani, and Madison Hervey, sisters Angela Copeland, Marcy Wilson, and Donna Seaburn, brothers Andrew Copeland and wife Laverne, Rodney Wilson and wife Camille, and Kirk Wilson and wife Risa, and many nieces and nephews. Like I said before, Luann Ann and I attended the service. We attended the viewing and then we stayed for the service, but we did not go to the gravesite. We left that to be with the family to do that. Right. During the service, a cousin spoke, a daughter spoke, and one of the sisters spoke. There was a poem, and there was scripture reading by his aunt. It was Ecclesiastes 31, 1 through 8. And Kim Edwards Tilley, I believe that was the person that sang the song. And then the scripture reading was Romans 8:38 through 39 by Dr. Claudia Shakespeare. And the eulogy was done by Reverend Patrick Weber. I must say it was a really nice service.
That's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. I really am.
Yeah. I also would like to say, Brian, if I would,
yes,
to mention at least, I think I have about 25 Pitt, Ohio people that showed up for that.
That is awesome.
Kyle and Laney were there. Mm-hmm. Kyle is our terminal manager. And Bruce Jurgensen and his wife, Megan, our office manager, and her husband, Seth, who's in charge of the mechanic shop. And supervisors that I noticed there, Matt, Sean, and Ben. Did you notice any other?
Brian Whalen.
Yeah. Brian Whalen was there as well. Some of the other people that were there were Scotty, Moses, Dave Aguilera, Dave Fritz, Dave Murray, Alex Plessel, Tom Dunham, Bob, our fueler. I don't know Bob's last name.
Simons.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Hector was there, and Tanya, Steve. I believe it's pronounced Connect. I apologize if I don't say these names properly. Brian Whalen, we said that. Luann and myself. And another city driver, Steve Graham, I believe Scotty was telling me, him and his wife. So there was about 25 people there from Pitt, Ohio. I thought that was a good turnout.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad.
It's kind of hard for the line haul guys because, we're all getting back. Between, 7, 10, depending on the run.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, Brian. I got a call when we were going over. I picked Luann up and Scotty, and I got a call from Scott Van Auken telling me that he was planning to attend, but he couldn't because he got held up. He got out late, I think it was around
almost
10 to midnight.
Yeah, there you go, 10 to midnight.
To go to
so
Avon,
he was hoping to make it, and he didn't show up. So I'm sure there were some other drivers that were planning to attend, but for whatever reason could not make it. But it was a very good turnout. And then his family, it outnumbered us by a long shot.
Yeah.
It's probably, I don't know, what would you say, Luann? At least 100 to 200 people? Yeah, 200. I'm going to go with 200.
Wow.
Church was full.
That is, oh my word. That,
so he knew a couple people.
Yeah. But you know what that speaks to who he was.
Right.
It really does.
Absolutely.
It speaks to the kind of person he was, that he impacted people's lives, that people liked him. People knew him.
Mm-hmm.
And, it sounds like he was the kind of guy, and I didn't know Wilson really well. I just knew him to see him, at the terminals, knew to see him. And he was very quiet when he would walk in. He'd just walk up behind you. And if I'm sitting at the break room table, he'd just walk up behind me and push me on the shoulder and just say, "Hey, how you doing?" Grab his paperwork and go. He was a quiet guy like that.
Yes. Yeah.
But he impacted people's lives.
He did.
And I think that's so important to remember that.
Yeah.
And it shows by how many people showed up.
Yeah.
Right. I said this to Brian. I says, the problem, I hate going to funerals and viewings. And the problem I have, it's like I use this analogy as like a race car driver. Race car drivers don't go to other race car drivers' funerals. They know, because it's a result of usually what happens on the track.
Interesting. I didn't know
this is a result of what can happen
on the road
any night of the week on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like loading a gun, putting a bullet in, spinning the barrel, spinning the chamber. It's a crapshoot every night. Every night you walk out the door, you kiss your loved one, you tell them you love them, and you hope you're coming home to say, "I'm home."
Exactly.
And there's some of us, unfortunately, come up on the short end of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the reality of driving.
It's the reality of the job.
Yes.
Yeah, it's what we do. And it's a scary,
it's like I said, these people might hate truck drivers. Do us a favor. Stop buying shit. We can go home and stay home every night of the week. Just saying.
Yeah.
Sorry, pretty blunt. Right. I mean,
100%.
It's a tragedy.
It is
what happened. I mean, from what I knew of him, he was, he always talked to me. Great guy.
Yep. Very friendly. Nice.
Very friendly personality. Everything's okay. Gonna have a good night. It sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you're gonna say that's gonna, you just kind of live with it and you get used to it eventually. But it just sucks.
Yeah.
Like I said, we were in the middle of the show. Mike was texting. He was getting texts from Cincinnati, and it all just started. And you can hear when we were on the show. I mean, there's dead spots in the show because we were showing phones back and forth.
Oh, wow.
What was going on, and then we were texting with you even.
Yeah, how that started was a friend of ours, Louie and I, who is actually a McKesson driver.
You were saying, yeah.
He lit his backyard basically touches 33, and I keep forgetting to ask him. I don't know if he heard it or if he actually saw it or someone told him.
He saw the sirens and the lights. He could see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he went over to investigate and see what it was. And when he saw it was a Pitt, Ohio trailer, he took a picture of it.
Right.
Because he saw the state trooper coming at him, and he took the picture because the trooper said, "You got to leave. You got to leave." He didn't want him near it. So then he knew it was something really bad.
Right.
And then he texted me and called me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I text Rambo.
And that started the fire started the fire on the wire.
Yep. And he texted Kyle, and Kyle didn't know anything.
Right.
And then within an hour or so, he gave me another text that it was a fatality.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a multi-text that we got on that.
Yeah.
It is. It's sad. When you think that that's how we found out about a friend and that they passed. Because I got a message from a Cincinnati driver who we've had on the show. And he's like, "Was this one of your guys?" And he just found it on the LTL Underground Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent, it was a picture of the report, from PA as far as the 511. And it had that the driver had a fatal accident. That's when we found out that it was fatal, because it was like, holy crap. And we were talking about it, and somebody had said something about an accident on 33. Somebody had said something at some point about, they were wondering if it was Wilson. And I got that text, and I looked at Shipper, and I'm like, wait a second. Is this Wilson? And that's when we started texting to find out who, because there was rumors that somebody had an accident on 33. Well, when you finally get that message, you're like, that's the story right there. We already knew that the driver had died. It was a fatal crash, but we didn't know it was Wilson. And that's when we texted you, and that's when we found out. And it's just heartbreaking, because Wilson, we've all at least passed Wilson. We knew who he was. Some of you work with, some of you see, and you're just like, what in the world? How does it happen? How does life end like that? And you sent a picture of his son, and I'm like, what is he, 10?
Yes.
It's like, 8. Is that what he is?
Oh,
I don't know.
Oh,
I think it was 10.
He's like, whatever he is. I showed my
10.
wife, and I said to Michelle, how old does he look? He's like a little kid.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine getting that news. That this is, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. Tell us a little bit about Wilson.
I had to smile when I was looking down on him when he was in the coffin, because you just mentioned a little while ago, he always walked by. You knew who he was.
Yeah.
He was the guy that always wore sunglasses.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
That is so true.
He was a nighttime driver.
Yep.
Yeah.
And guess what? His sunglasses were on that day.
Oh, that is so cool. That's him.
Yeah. I almost broke down and crying on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
wow. That's really cool.
He was a fun guy. I regret a couple things. We always talked about getting together, especially in the summertime, coming over to his house for a picnic, or his family coming over to ours. We always talked about it, but just never did it. How many times have you and I talked, Mike, about getting together? And we have, but there's been times where, something didn't work out, and excuse me. And, I just wish we could have spent more time together, but that's the way things go. But, Blue Wayne, you got any thoughts on Wilson?
Well, one thing I learned at
sideways.
the funeral.
Yeah, that one, it picks up from the side.
At the funeral, who was the guy sitting behind us in the suit?
Just move in a little bit more, Luann.
Who?
Dave Fritz.
Dave Fritz. We were talking. I never really met him before, but he was informing me that one of the people that were up talking to the family members, he had a plaid, flannel, like a plaid coat on.
Okay.
He said he was in the car behind Wilson with his wife.
Wow.
And they just passed Wilson and pulled in the right lane. And when he pulled in the right lane, he saw the truck lay over. And he stopped immediately and backed up, because finding out he was a truck driver.
Wow.
So he got out and he stayed with Wilson till the authorities came.
Now, we have questioned this. We've been asked this. Was Wilson still alive?
We don't know.
When it rolled.
We don't know.
Okay.
Don't know.
I didn't know if anybody knew or not.
I don't know.
But that's such a comforting thought for his family.
He wasn't alone.
That he wasn't alone.
And
that
another trucker was with him.
Driver stopped, watched it, and witnessed it, and then stopped.
And he said he wouldn't leave him.
That is awesome. That is really.
That's what I was hoping to talk to Keisha about, so I could share that today. But I did not talk to her. So.
Right.
And then he showed up at the funeral also.
Did he?
Wow.
With his wife. They were the ones that witnessed, saw it,
right?
And they were there.
That is really that's a very kind thing to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It
speaks to truck drivers.
Well, again, too, that's how it affects us. I mean, that guy driving the truck, he's gonna, he's in his own personal car, minding his own business, and it just happens right in front of him.
Yeah.
Or right in back of him.
That was a God kind of thing, that he happened to be there, saw what happened, and he looked in his mirror like we all do.
Yeah.
And he saw it happen, and he had to stop. So,
Yeah.
and I know we all would do the same thing for another driver, regardless of who it was.
Right.
But it's the truck driver in us.
Right.
It is.
We would just get up and go do it and don't think about what we're walking up to. Because I often thought when I started learning, if I was come upon a bad trucking scene, I would jump out and go run to it. And then what would I be getting into? What would I see?
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't get out. And, it depends if it's dark, if it's raining or snowing. if it's on the
You'd have to do it.
interstate,
You'd have to be doing it safely, you know,
yeah,
because
you'd have to. But I often thought my intentions would be to go do it, but I think
Right.
maybe I need to think about this a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should just quick call 911 first.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
do the smart thing. But it's a frightening thing when you come up upon an accident with a car or truck or anyone.
It is.
Of what you're going to find.
Yep. Especially if you're the first person to arrive.
And what are you going to do and what can you do and what do you know to do? It's quite frightening.
It is. It really is. It's a horrific thing to watch happen. I mean, you know, it's one of those strange things about the human nature is, you know, we watch and we rubberneck. You know, we pass an accident and we're all slowing down, and nobody can figure out what's going on ahead. That traffic is so slow, and you get up there and it's an accident, and it's everybody looking, and you think to yourself, don't just drive by and look. Let it sink in. Register what's going on, and stop driving like an a-hole, because that could be you. Mm-hmm. That could be you causing that for someone else.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only that, they're on the opposite side of the highway.
They are. Yeah.
They're doing that action could be causing going, you know,
anything,
on
right.
their side.
Yeah.
Same way, because all of a sudden somebody comes up on stop traffic.
Brakes,
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Do a quick glance, be happy you weren't involved, and go about your day.
Yep.
Yes. And I mean that when I say don't be an a-hole, I mean that in the most heartfelt way I can say it, because it's like sometimes you have to hit people upside the head with a baseball bat for them to get the idea.
They need to get hurt.
Yeah.
They need to get, it sinks in.
Yeah, that it actually sinks in.
Don't speed.
Yeah, leave 10 minutes earlier.
There you go.
You know, I mean,
Cut people off.
Yeah, I wish, and I've said this on the show before, I wish people showed as much enthusiasm at work as they show going to work on the highway. They're driving like a maniac to get there and they get to work, and now all of a sudden they're going to slow down and not be productive today.
Yep. And
I think to myself, you know, just leave 10 minutes earlier. And now I realize that this accident didn't happen because of any of those extenuating circumstances, but let it be at least a wake up call that this is what can happen.
Yes.
These are the things that go on the roadways. And it's horrific to think that Wilson is no longer here.
Yeah.
He was 58.
Yeah.
He's in the same age group we're all in, except for Mike, because Mike's like 51-ish. And of course, you're
but a little bit
He's
older.
in your age group. Put it at that.
There you go.
No, you were right. It's our age group.
It really, it's our age group.
Yeah.
We're all in our 50s. Yeah.
Older senior drivers.
Yeah, exactly. We've been driving for a while. We've got experience, and, you know, and here he's 58 years old and he's gone way too soon.
One thing I've learned that I do, when I started driving, I was always afraid or concerned that I would hit or hurt or kill someone.
Yeah.
Then when I saw trucking accidents and someone passed, I realized, wow, that could be me.
Yep.
Then I didn't like that so much.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
But what I've learned to do is when I see an accident of any sort, I always send up a prayer for the immediate driver, the family, and the people that are getting that awful phone call, even if they're just hurt, and for the state troopers and all the EMS people, the fire department that has to come out in the rain or the snow or the dark or the blizzard or whatever to address the situation and keep the highway moving. Mm-hmm. But I've learned too, when I'm driving down the road and all of a sudden on the interstate, especially 78, there's no cars coming at me, no trucks, no traffic, no nothing. Uh-oh, I know what that means.
Yep.
The road's closed. There's a bad wreck ahead.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there it is.
Yep. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
You get that oh shit moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's worse than that to me personally is when I see a truck fire.
Yeah.
A tractor trailer on fire with the trailer. The flames are 2 to 3 stories high. It is horrendous.
It is.
It's horrendous.
Yes.
And it's already happened to me that I got out of the truck before my truck went up in flames. But it's like I just got done living it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, even more so nowadays, they've lightened up the trucks so much, the cabs are aluminum.
Right.
You get a fire going, you get, DEF cooking. It's a barbecue.
Yeah.
It's down to the frame rails and rims.
Right down
because
to
the tires are going to go, the cab's going to melt.
All the interior.
The fiber, the glass is going to melt. and it's going to be a big ball
Yeah.
with 10 wheels.
Yeah.
You know?
You drive drive past what used to
Right.
an accident scene, a fire scene at one point.
And
and it's still 3 years later. It's still
charred,
all
still
bumpy and
charred.
charred.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
wall
and
is,
your little 5-pound fire extinguisher ain't gonna put that out.
Wasn't going to help. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a scary thought. I mean, it is what we do for a living. It's the reality of what we do. And like I said earlier, you can't walk in the always thinking about that in the front of your mind, because it's like a human being. We walk through life. We know that we have, we're going to die at some point. We all know we're going to pass. That's just a reality but we don't live in that.
Right.
Because if you did, you couldn't. The human brain has an ability to just not to know it's there, but to move on. Because if you don't, you're not going to live. You're not going to live this life. You're gonna hermitize yourself. You're going to become a hermit. You're going to sit in your own little place and don't want to be bothered by anything. And I don't want anything to hurt me.
Right.
So you have to get out and you have to do it. That's what we as truck drivers do. We deal with it every day. We got to
get back up on the horse and go.
You got to get in it. You got to get back in the truck. When I had my accident, I had to get back in the truck, the next day. It's like, that's just the reality of it. It never struck me that I had an accident that was a severe accident until I'm sitting here at my kitchen table, and my wife was working nights, and she got up in the afternoon and she came downstairs and she said, "What are you doing up yet?" I said, "Well, I had an accident on my way home, or, on my way back from Harrisburg to Allentown." And she started to cry. And it's the first time that it actually meant something to somebody else other than an idiot pulled out in front of me and, tried to turn left on the highway in front of me. And that was my mindset. My wife's like, she just started to cry. She's like, that could have been you dead.
Yep.
And that's when you realize, like, holy crap, that's what we deal with every day.
You being dead, or the idiot that pulled out in front of you being,
or both.
Right.
There's just a reality, and that's where Keisha's at.
Or worse, my one friend was in an accident, and she had a year-old son with a new marriage, and she lived to be a paraplegic the rest of her life.
Wow.
She could talk, her arms would move, but she couldn't. She was like in her 30s.
Wow.
So to be passed away sometimes is better.
Sure.
Right.
But to live like that the rest of your life, and to have your year-old son not have a mother, and to be she lived at home for a few years with a caretaker, and then they had to put her in a home,
in a facility,
because she needed more care. But this happened over 25 years ago, and she's still alive.
Wow.
So to be a paraplegic is something I'd sooner be gone.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Rather than,
so you can have both ways.
It's a double-edged sword there.
Yep.
Yep.
It's a curse and a blessing all
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's crazy. What was your experiences with Wilson? Like, and you trained Wilson.
Yeah, I trained him a couple times. And I'd like to actually share this story about
go right
me
ahead.
training him. I trained him for McKesson. Unlike Luann, I trained her for line haul, and then a couple months later, we went over to McKesson. So I trained Wilson at McKesson, and I don't know what. Do you remember the time period he left? Before he left, I'm going to say a year, maybe.
Okay.
Oh, he was there about a year and a half.
Year and a
He
half.
was there a good amount of time.
Okay, he was there a year and a half, and he left Pitt, Ohio, to go to work for UPS.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how crazy this life is.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and he was gone for 6 weeks and came back to Pitt, Ohio.
Okay.
He told us it was the worst mistake he ever made in his life, leaving Pitt, Ohio to go to work for UPS.
Wow.
And when he came back, man, he was happy that he could get in. He called Brian up. Unfortunately, and he didn't want it, but Brian said, well, the only thing we have available is line haul. We have no dedicated to offer you. So he said, that's fine. So then I was able to spend some more time with Wilson.
Right.
And that last day, I took a picture of us both, and I sent that to Keisha, and she was real happy.
Yeah.
She goes, oh, that's a really nice picture. I'll put that in the slideshow.
At the funeral.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was.
at the funeral.
Yeah.
So, he came back and, was here until what happened.
And sometimes it's an interesting thing to hear when somebody is at a place and they go somewhere else, some place that is an esteemed place to go to, like UPS, and they come back and they're like, it was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have left. It makes you feel like, it really doesn't make you feel like, well, I guess I'm in a pretty good place.
Yes.
As much as we want to complain about it.
Right. Hearing that story makes you think about the grass not being greener on the other side, and he was able to get back.
Yeah, because guess what? The grass is brown in their yard too. That's just it's burnt and brown. That's just the way it is.
Well, when he was hired there, he thought it was full-time work, and it ended up being part-time.
Right. So he was just a casual driver.
So then that was not working, and he wasn't making enough money, and he wanted to be full-time. So that kind of...
That is the thing that has always when I first started driving. That was one of those things that I used to hear from companies. Well, we'll hire you on as casual, part-time. You fill in. You work 2 days a week, 3 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I got to work. I got a family to feed. Who can live like that? Are you crazy?
Nope.
And when I bounced around the first few years, and then Bill Engler called me and he's like, you still interested? I'm like, yeah, I'm still interested. You got something? Let's do this.
So the first time you went down there, you didn't get hired?
No,
I didn't
the first
know that.
3 times I went down there, I didn't get hired.
Oh, wow.
Because they were never looking for anybody. I'm like, well, I'm just going to go put my app in.
Yeah.
I did it a couple of times. It's just the way it is.
What year was that?
I started in 1993. I put my app in 1994. I put my app in 1996, and he hired me in 97.
Wow.
Yeah.
Get the heck out.
Yeah.
Took Brian 4 years to learn how to write.
Part of it was that
higher.
Part of it was I didn't have, and at that time you had to have a couple years experience. Like I started driving in 93.
Right. So we
actually had, that was a standard that Pitt had.
2 years.
But you had to have at least 2 years. And I didn't have, first time I applied in 93, I didn't have a full year in yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, most good companies want minimum of 2 or
years,
more with a clean record.
Yeah. Yeah. And my record was clean.
Right.
I just didn't have the experience.
Right.
So he's like, well,
you
come
just
back.
didn't have the stick time.
So I just figured I'm going to keep putting, exactly.
Yeah.
Pull that string again.
Yep.
I figured keep putting your application in.
Yep.
And be persistent, and it eventually pay off, and it did. Then he called, but there's just a reality to that. You need experience, and nowadays it's a lot different now. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, why couldn't they have this standard when I first started driving?
Right.
I could have been here since '93. I'd be higher than Bill on it.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
I got hired in 96.
There you go.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
But it's all good. It's all for a reason. It's all right. But I know we're going to miss Wilson.
Oh, big time.
And I know that there's people in his life who are going to miss him.
Yeah. I'm going to miss him reaching out to me and say, hey, I need help. I'm lost. Right, Luann?
Oh, yeah.
See, we all do that. Did you get those phone calls, Luann?
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
When he was running line haul, it took him a while to learn all the routes, but he eventually got there. I remember one time he was going down to East Windsor. What is that road? US 1?
Yeah.
Okay. So you take that, what would that be? North, right? Taking it north, go across the Delaware there. And I said, you get off at a certain exit, go down a light, make a right, come back. Now, when you come back, just come back the same way and get on 1 and go south until you get down to the turnpike.
Yeah, right down.
And he calls me up and he goes, hey, I came back and, I have no idea where I'm at. And he says, I said, finally, I had to, look on the map, see where he was at. And here he had gone the other direction towards Jersey.
Wow.
And because I wasn't familiar with the name of the town, but once I looked at it, then I realized, okay, you got to turn around. You're still on 1, right?
Yep. He went south.
Yep.
Well, you told him to go the same way. So he was going south. So he followed you. He went back and went south instead of north.
But that happened quite a few times. And I know Luann can attest to that. So.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else ever really knows, but sometimes the directions that they give you,
Oh, sure. They're not
so good a lot.
Yeah.
They were bad.
Yeah.
They used to be really bad.
Well, yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember the East Windsor the
Yes.
East Windsor directions. Get off on what was that? White Marsh Road,
Whitehead
Road.
Whitehead, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It stops.
Go to Whitehead Road.
Where the hell's the terminal?
And what?
Now what?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm here.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
stopped.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You want to bring the terminal out to me?
when they, when they moved the Baltimore terminal,
Yeah.
when they moved, when they changed it from Jerome,
Right.
when they went to, I'm trying to think of some of the other terminals that I've been
They
to.
changed
Cherry
it
Hill.
3 times or 2 times.
Yeah.
They're,
the
they're
Baltimore
since
one.
I've been there, they've been in their 3rd terminal.
Yeah. And it's
You
just
too, Mike?
so strange.
Twice. Okay.
So sometimes the directions just aren't the greatest. That's all I'm saying. I don't mean any derogatory.
Sometimes
way
it's
about
better pull it up on your own GPS.
Yeah, and you find your way around, and you call a Bill Rambo, or you call a Luann, or you call a shipper, or you call somebody who you know who's been
you get
there,
this call.
You know,
they call Bill. Bill calls me to find out where he is.
Yeah.
Because I remember that when
and before
that turned around thing.
And before Shipper came into the picture, it was call Randy.
Yeah. Call Woody.
pull that string one more time.
Sir. Well, how did you get there?
Yeah, I don't know.
If I knew, I wouldn't be calling you.
I can't just throw it in reverse.
All right.
That's all I can tell you. But it's just I don't know. I just find it so fascinating that this is a truck driver life.
Yeah.
We sit here and in light of the death of a friend, we can still have a good time. We can still talk and remember that person.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that for each one of us, that when it's our time to go, that people sit around and remember good things about Mike. It might be hard. We'll remember good things about Mike or Luann or Bill or Brian. You know
I'm
what I
not
mean?
leaving.
Amen.
Well, mine will be a short service. There'll be like 4 people there.
We'll fix that.
Anybody want to come and say anything nice?
Not enough people to hold the casket there, Brian.
There ain't going to be no casket. Let's go out 78 and open up the bag. Don't worry, I'll fill in some of those potholes.
There you
for
go. Somebody's got you.
Thank you.
Not in Jersey.
Smoothing out the road.
We're going to smooth it out one hole at a time.
When I was with Wilson, when we were first running,
Uh-huh.
and they used to have road construction to pave the roads.
Right.
And to get on from 46 to 80, you made a left.
Mm-hmm.
And it was closed. So what I do, I didn't know the area. I just pulled over right away. I have a Garmin, got my GPS out, figured where to go. You go 2 lights and make
2
a left.
lights, make the left,
And
get
if
right
you
on.
look, there are road signs, if you
Right.
read them, that says 70 to go 80 west.
Right.
And about an hour or 2 later, Wilson calls me and says, "Hey, where are you?" And I told him, he goes, "Well, what did you do instead of getting on 80? I said, "Well, I pulled over and checked my Garmin to say go 2 lights and make a left to get on the highway." He goes, "Oh, I didn't see those signs." I said, "There were signs." And I said, "Where are you?" He said, "Well, I drove about an hour down the road." I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
You just stopped a little while ago, bro.
Hour down the road. He's just about Hackettstown.
Just landed and make sure you get back.
Yeah.
At this point, just look for signs that say 78.
Yeah, he was looking for PA.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, so I told him he had to turn around and go back. And then when he was coming, I don't know where he found a place to turn around. You know, at night you got to be careful.
Oh yeah.
You know, a shopping center, sometimes they have all the trees in the middle of the parking lot or wherever.
Right.
But he found a way to turn around and came back.
Good.
And then he called and told me, I got it. I'm back on 80 going on 287 south. I'm like, okay, that's good. Because I
Yeah.
told him to please let me know how you doing.
The hard pill to swallow there is you drove an hour down. Now you got to drive that hour back. So now you're 2 hours behind.
Oh, yeah. He was really, really late.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He had a long night. Yep.
Yeah.
So I told him from now on, when I see something, because I'm first one out, if I see something, I'll call and let you know if there's road construction or an accident to get around and how to get around it. But I said, from now on, I'll call you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, it's truck drivers working together.
Yep.
You know, you got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
You got to make it happen. You know,
Yep.
we all got a job to do. So
You're right there. We're not gonna be doing a show on you yet. Okay.
Hey.
There's no hazard pay for doing this.
is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about with Wilson at all?
I don't know.
Or-
I think I shared with what I wanted to. I want to thank you for giving Luann and I this opportunity to come down and share some things on our dear friend Wilson. And we just have to remember Keisha and their son Zachary in our prayers and thoughts.
100%.
Because it's going to be a tough road ahead.
It is.
And
very tough.
I just feel bad for them. And I again, thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, it was our pleasure. It really was. Thank you for coming down.
One thing I wanted to let you know, when I met Wilson and we were talking off and on, he was telling me about Zach, his 4-year-old son. Wow. He says, he is so smart. And he takes my phone and he wants to do things. And he says, you can't do this and you can't do that. He says, he's always on my phone. He said, he's too smart for his britches. I said, Wilson, you're in for a rough ride.
Well, how about it? It's a long time.
Let me add to that. He used to talk about his son and
a lot.
Yes,
Zach.
And he said his son loved all the girls at school, and he was on the phone with them all the time. Yeah, he always used to talk about that. He loved his son dearly, and he loved his daughters as well that, lived in New Jersey. But I finally got to meet Zach at the funeral, and I got down on my knees, and I said, can I give you a hug? So I gave him a hug, and I said, thank you for that. So, it was...
That's awesome.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think at the funeral they mentioned that Wilson was one of the few in the family. He was one of the first ones to buy a home.
Wow.
And from New York, he moved to Freemansburg. Mm-hmm. And he told me, now I'm only kidding, but when the girls come and the family comes, they can come and visit, but you can't stay. You got to go home. But if I remember correctly, that's what they said. Oh, wow. So that's a real accomplishment too.
Yeah.
Right.
It really is. Yeah. God bless him. That's great.
Yep.
He'll be missed. He'll definitely be
big
missed.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming on and talking with us and just giving us an opportunity to remember Wilson. Just kind of walk down that road a little bit.
You got it.
Thank you,
really
brother. Appreciate that.
Thank
I really
you.
do. Yep.
It's just a little something we could do.
Yep.
We're not all assholes. Thank you.
No, we're not.
I strive for excellence.
I am. I'm going to leave that part go.
Beep, beep, beep.
Yes, exactly. But with that being said, we do appreciate everybody just taking a time out to listen to this show. And just remember the truck drivers around you. Remember that there are people who are doing this for a living. Remember that there are people who are putting their life on the line every day to drive around in traffic, to put up with everything that truck drivers put up with and the stress that causes.
They have families too.
They have families too.
Loved ones too.
Yeah, and they want they want to go home to see their loved ones. Everybody be safe out there. Be careful and take care of yourselves, and remember to love each other, because I don't care what you believe, I don't care where you're at, that's the only thing you got.
Amen.
So just do that. Thank you all.
Good night.